A Holocaust survivor once said that memory is meant to protect humanity, not to be used as a political weapon. Yet in Israel's parliament this week, the language of genocide was thrown into a political fight, while an actual humanitarian catastrophe continues in Gaza. That contradiction tells you everything you need to know about the moment we are living in. On January 5th, Israeli opposition leaders Yair Lapid and Avigdor Lieberman publicly condemned ultra-Orthodox figures for comparing enforcement of military enlistment to Nazism and for invoking the yellow star as a political metaphor. Lapid spoke about his father's yellow badge, his grandfather murdered after surviving Auschwitz, and he asked a simple question: how dare anyone use the language of extermination to score political points? But this wasn't only about offensive words. It exposed a deeper fracture, one created and sustained under Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership. For years, Netanyahu has governed through crisis. War, fear, division, and permanent emergency have become the fuel of political survival. When a society lives too long in emergency mode, it stops thinking in human terms and starts thinking in tribal ones. Language becomes sharper. Enemies become abstract. Pain becomes a statistic. Inside Israel, this shows up as internal moral collapse, where Holocaust memory becomes a weapon, not a warning. Outside Israel, it shows up in Gaza, where suffering is normalized, where children are buried in rubble, where displacement and hunger become background noise. That is the moral symmetry Netanyahu's politics create. Outrage is selective, empathy is conditional, and human life becomes negotiable. Netanyahu's government insists that criticism of Israel is dangerous, divisive, even hateful, while tolerating and empowering extreme rhetoric inside its own coalition. That double standard does not protect Jewish safety. It erodes it. It does not protect Israel's legitimacy. It corrodes it, because when leaders manipulate trauma, they do not honor history. They exploit it. And when trauma is exploited, it spreads. The language used today inside Israel's politics mirrors the logic used to justify what happens in Gaza. Dehumanization first, normalization second, denial last. First, people are turned into threats. Then, they are turned into numbers. Then their suffering is called inevitable. This is not security. This is moral exhaustion. And the cost is paid not by politicians, but by civilians, Israeli and Palestinian alike. A society does not collapse when enemies attack it from the outside. It collapses when leaders hollow it out from the inside, when memory is stripped of meaning, when ethics are sacrificed for power, and when war becomes a political lifestyle rather than a tragic necessity. That is the danger Netanyahu represents. Not just a political failure, but a moral one. Gaza is not an abstraction. It is families living in tents, hospitals without electricity, children who know drones better than schools. Their lives are not collateral. They are human. And Israelis deserve better than leadership that thrives on permanent conflict and permanent fear. So if you are watching this, do not let this become another story you scroll past. Share verified reporting. Support humanitarian organizations that protect civilians, not governments. Demand accountability from leaders who use history as a shield and suffering as a strategy. Because silence is not neutrality. Silence is permission, and the world has already given too much of it.